Hello and welcome to episode 4 of VGM Moments, a podcast dedicated to memorable pieces of video game music. I'm your host Steve Vancouver, and as usual we'll be talking about the moments in video game music that stuck with us, maybe through their use in the game and their emotions attached to them, or just because they're fantastic pieces of music. My guest today is likely best known for his performances and arrangements of video game music such as Final Fantasy, Chrono Trigger, and The Legend of Zelda, with his signature melancholy spin added to the pieces. Most recently, he collaborated with cellist Roxane Genot, I think I pronounced that right, on Memories of Fantasies, an arranged album dedicated to classic and lesser-known Final Fantasy music. I'm very happy to welcome Dan TPR Collins to the show. Welcome, Dan.
Hi, Steve. Thank you very much for having me.
No problem at all. Thanks for joining. Tell me a little bit about how you got into writing your music and arranging your melancholy albums, because that is quite something. You've got quite a little fandom going.
That's very kind of you to say. It's born out of a frustration for not being a better pianist and musician, to be honest. Like you, especially listening to like the piano collections, with the officially licensed, Final Fantasy piano collections, and just trying to play those and just realizing that I will never be able to play them, but obviously these are classic melodies we're talking about, and it's so much fun to play on the piano. So
pieces.
Exactly, yeah. So you can't beat them, so you rearrange them. Is how I think the famous phrase goes. So I decided to simplify, just boil them down to the melodies, and like I've had a bit of piano, not training, but a few lessons when I was a kid, but I kind of gave up when I was a teenager because I was a teenager, and like about 2021 I decided, around then, maybe a bit before, I started getting back into it and figured that, like, hey, stick with what you know, right? And I thought, this sounds pretty good, I'll put it on YouTube. And this is back in like 2011 now, I think we're talking. And they used to have don't know if you can remember, they had a a video responses section.
Oh yeah, they did.
Yeah,
I forgot about that. Entirely existed.
Yeah. So I put exactly right. So I put my versions onto someone had uploaded the OST, basically the soundtrack, what it was like in '97 for Final Fantasy VII, and I just stuck my cover underneath. So if people wanted to listen. I mean, melancholy tribute means absolutely nothing to someone who doesn't know what it is, so I think I just called it piano version or something, and then kind of built a subscriber base up from there. So it's a shame when people ask me, like, oh, how can I get some exposure? I'm like, well, the thing I did doesn't exist anymore, so sorry about that. But and then it just kind of grew from there. Like, when people like it and you like it, you just think, well, I'll make more, and it's kind of gone from there, really.
It's wonderful. It's as I said in your intro, it's sort of a signature style for you, because there are other people who have done the melancholy style, but I think yours probably stands out the most.
I can't do anything else anymore. And I love it. It's great.
Your life is just one melancholy day.
Everything in my life is just 30 BPM slower with some soft synths in the background.
Obviously, you started with Final Fantasy, as you mentioned there, but you've moved on to things like Chrono Trigger, Zelda, and Kingdom Hearts.
Yeah.
How do you choose what games you want to rearrange?
It's just what games I enjoyed when I was a kid, basically. Okay. It's just because I feel like they're not obviously they're not the most complex, neither the originals nor my arrangements, and nostalgia plays a big part in it. Like I covered The Last of Us, and maybe they weren't as good, but that album didn't do half as well as like a Final Fantasy one would, maybe because it doesn't have that nostalgia. And I think just because maybe I have that same nostalgia that the listeners do, it's just nice to share, I think. So that's kind of where the older stuff comes from, like the ocarinas and the although Chrono Trigger is a bit different. It didn't come out over here when it came out in the US, did it?
It didn't, no.
No, I only remember playing it first time on the DS.
Yeah, I think it was a quite late release over here. How long does it generally take you to create each album? Is it a slow process, or do you generally have a good idea of how you want to proceed?
It varies, definitely varies. depends on how I'm getting on with it. Like sometimes some are a lot tougher, and not necessarily the trickier ones to arrange are the toughest ones. Sometimes you just get stuck on one, and it's not too bad because unless you're at the last couple, there's always another one to move on to that you like, sort of thing. But say like I've done like 40 odd tracks on 7, but that probably took about the same amount of time as say the Wind Waker one, which is only like 15 tracks, because it's a I mean, you love the Wind Waker soundtrack, right?
I do indeed. That is one of my favourites.
But like that obviously has very different instrumentation. Like it's got quite a lot of percussion, like the kind of I don't know what he's used, but like kind of bongo sound. It's obviously not as easy to translate to my style as say like an Aeris theme or something like that. It just depends on the soundtrack, really.
Yeah. Do you ever find it difficult to put your own spin on some pieces of music? Maybe some that already have a slower tempo.
Very, very much so. Yeah. The thing is, sometimes I've noticed is that people, and it is slightly annoying, but people are very happy to listen to something very similar to the original sometimes. But then, like, I don't know. It tends to be the more well-known pieces that you have more trouble with, because there's a balance you need to strike of not making it sound like the original, but also not, I'm making air quotes here, ruining it because it's so revered.
I guess there's sort of an expectation amongst some fans about this is how the piece should sound.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's the thing. I mean, in an ideal world, it would be great just to do some weird thing that you really like and put it out there, and people go, they'll either go, oh, I love that, or I don't like it, but I respect the effort, or something like that. But no, that won't happen, obviously. You'll get sworn at and called very rude words. Yeah.
What we'll do now, we'll jump onto your first piece, and your first piece is quite interesting. We'll go on to that because it's completely the opposite of melancholy. So let's have a listen. It's a little bit of a banger, so let's enjoy it, and we'll talk about it afterwards. That was The Edge of Soul from Soul Blade, or Soul Edge if you're from Japan or America. I don't know what it was named in different countries, but here it was Soul Blade. Composed by the Namco Sound Team. I tried to find specifically who it was for this. It looks like it was a guy called Masahiro Oki. Dan, this isn't a very melancholic piece. Tell me a little bit about it.
Well, it's just so fun. The thing is it's obviously an amazing piece of music, but the opening of the game where it's from is just it's just a perfect combination of campy nonsense.
Yeah, I watched a video of this because I'm not familiar with the Soul Blade series. I was sort of brought up on Tekken on
Nice.
PS1.
Yeah.
And this knocks Tekken out of the water for intro movies. This is something completely different.
Tekken has its fair share of amazing movies, but the Soul Blade one, yeah, that is what YouTube is made for. Is for watching 21-year-old intro videos from the PS1 era. It's amazing. But yeah, the music obviously hasn't really liking this kind of music hasn't really informed my arranging style, but it's so amazing.
Do you think it was the fact that it was the intro movie for such a game that you really got into it, or was it something actually behind the music itself?
Well, yeah, I think when did it come out? I think it came out in the UK in like '97, and
I think so. Yeah,
I think it must have been about '98 when I got it, so I'd have been 10, 11 then. Obviously, I hadn't got enough money to buy my own games, but like I had my oracle of what to get, which was PlayStation Power magazine. Like my parents weren't well off enough to get the official one with all the demo discs, but it was independent, so that's how you knew it was real. It's how you knew it was telling you proper facts.
They had their own opinions,
yeah. Even though it's still run by Future. And I remember like reading, like they had the A to Z at the back, like the PS1 games that you should get. And I remember Soul Blade was like 9 out of 10. And this is, like you, I was a Tekken boy. And I'm like, what? There couldn't be any fighting game. It was like almost as good as Tekken 2. I'm like, yeah, we'll see about that, mate. And we walked past a charity shop, and they clearly hadn't got a clue about how to properly price PS1 games, because this was a relatively new game. It was like a $5.
Wow.
So my dad got it, and I was like, well, let's see PlayStation Power. Let's see if you're talking nonsense or not. Popped it in. Namco logo comes up. I'm like, oh, I recognise that. And then The Edge of Soul comes on, and it's just like, okay, well, I can turn this off right now, and it's already better.
Well, especially for £5, that's insane value.
So fortunately, the game's also very good, but you're also treated to that every time you want to turn it on.
Yeah, it's definitely quite a song as well. It's
yeah.
Yeah.
It's also like, so my kind of gaming background as a kid, like the PlayStation I got when I was 10, but before that I didn't have a Super Nintendo or anything like that. I had like an Amiga CD32, a console only released in Europe, and for good reason. It wasn't very good. And like, can you remember Dizzy the Egg? Sorry, I'm getting emotional over Dizzy.
Dizzy the Egg.
Yeah, Magic Land Dizzy, Prince of the Oak Folk.
I do remember him. It was a little bit like, I think it was actually while I had a PS1. I had a friend who didn't have a PS1, and I played Dizzy Egg on his
nice
computer or whatever it was at the time.
Okay.
But that was
so yeah, well, that's the kind of games I was used to, and of the music, very, very primitive. So like, and this was before I'd got into Final Fantasy. I think that came the following summer, and so to hear like a proper, I say proper song, but you know, like it has lyrics and everything, and there's like FMV in the background. Those look like actual people. They don't really, but they do they look more like people than Dizzy looks like an egg.
That is very true. I think that was the arms and legs though, that sort of.
Yeah. Also that as well, yeah. And then he rips his face off at the end. Oh my god, I was terrified of that. But like, so that, yeah, that's always stuck in my mind as just the first time I think I realised, or just kind of heard that an actual song in a video game, not just as background music, as like that. I mean, that intro movie's good, but it wouldn't be anything without that song. Like, synced up so well.
I think it definitely works. Fighting games are sort of like cheesy soaps, really, unlike like EastEnders or Coronation Street, but on speed or stuff like that.
Yeah, sure.
I think that intro is like the perfect soap opera intro.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, you just imagine like the actors' credits like at the bottom.
I can imagine the dun 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 dun, 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 and then this starting. It's
So yeah,
yeah,
it's amazing.
it is quite something, and as I said, it's very different from your melancholy suggestions, and not only that, it's very different from the rest of your list. It's
Yeah,
completely different.
Your stringent one game per franchise rules
Yeah.
meant I had to look outside the box a bit.
Well, do you know what? For hearing this song and watching it for the first time, I'm very glad that rule exists now. Because otherwise, I may never have listened to this song.
Oh, really?
I generally try. I'm not a. I like Tekken, but I found the music very cheesy, and I don't really tend to listen to that sort of thing. So, Soul Blade was a series I never got into, but yeah. So thank you very much, Dan. This is quite the enlightenment for me.
Well, I'm hoping that many of your listeners haven't heard it, or if they have, they have forgotten about it, and they're going to hear it again and remember what an amazing track and game Soul Blade / Soul Edge was.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, I'm looking forward to your melancholy version of this.
Well, there's so every April Fool's Day, I feel like I should do a track that shouldn't be done, sort of thing. Like, the card game theme, the Triple Triad theme from 8, or, like Soul...
Something that completely does not fit. Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Every time I think that, and then I realise that I could be spending this time on actually making, music that I enjoy, rather than ruining a classic track.
Stick it up somewhere, I'll buy it. It's guaranteed.
Okay.
But we'll move on onto your next pick, a track that you have done Melancholy remix for, I believe. And this is, well, it's quite obvious. It's one of your favourite series, which you mentioned. So we'll jump into this, and we'll have a listen. That was Listen to the Cries of the Planet from Final Fantasy VII by Nobuo Uematsu. But you did not need me to tell you that, because you already knew. Dan, you love Final Fantasy. Yes. Tell me why this specific piece from 7 is your favourite.
It probably is. It's definitely one of my favourites, but like, there's a moment. There's a video game music moment, Steve.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting my own show. What am I doing?
It's definitely up there. I don't think I could tell you without a shadow of a doubt what is my favourite Final Fantasy song. It's definitely top 5 at least. But that sound, like we were just talking about with the Soul Blade song, how just hearing an actual song with lyrics in a video game was mind blowing. And then when you've had you must be probably playing for 10, 12 hours before you hear this song, and just that after, like, obviously it is from the kind of that MIDI the sound font that he's using, but just it's so different to anything else heard in that game. And obviously the music for that whole game is amazing, but it just stands out. Just that just a simple arpeggio in that patch just sounds so good, and you just like, okay, something's about to go down, and about an hour later something definitely goes down.
I think we're happy to talk spoilers here.
Are we? Okay.
We are. Big spoiler warning.
So they actually, on the PS4 version, they actually put the old recording the scene is blocked.
Oh, really?
Like 20 years later, you can't watch Aerith getting killed because
something so well known in pop culture.
Exactly. Yeah, it's interesting. I like put it up on my Facebook page, like, God, can you believe this? And then people were like, well, yeah, there are going to be people that somehow haven't heard it, so, okay, fair enough.
I guess it's true. It's just it's like one of those things, like in The Sixth Sense. Everyone knows.
Yeah,
Bruce
you don't
Willis
have to have
is
seen
dead.
you don't even have to have seen the film, you know it.
I'm sorry, spoilers for Sixth Sense.
But like I said, for those who don't know, about you arrive at the Forgotten Capital, which Listen to the Cries of the Planet is the music for, and then after during that night, you visit Aerith at the church, and she gets stabbed and she gets killed, which is a very famous scene in Final Fantasy history. But just the kind of ominous sound, it just stuck with me. And like we've said, Steve, your one track per franchise meant this is a very hard decision.
Yeah.
But I thought just the moment, like if I could condense it to the moment, it would just be that sound, the intro arpeggio sound, just how different it was to anything else on that soundtrack, and just knowing in fact I wish I could tell you how I felt about it without knowing what was coming next.
Sure.
But the problem is, like, back, it must have been like 11 or 12. Yeah. Also, I can't remember, but like it was so well circulating within like the friends, like 11, 12 years old, like in year 7 at school, just like, oh my God, have you got to the bit where she dies? I'm like, you what? Oh, for fuck's sake.
So you didn't get to go in blind.
So no, not really. But
but I think that's
didn't stop the music being amazing.
That's almost a testament to the music itself, that it managed to stick with you like that. I mean, obviously, maybe not the not cliche pick. Maybe the obvious pick would be Aerith's theme, because that's the one that is immediately afterwards. But I think maybe the tension building beforehand. Yeah. Because you were waiting for it to happen.
Yeah, that might actually even be it, because I knew it was coming. So it's like, it is adding to it, yeah.
And it is very ominous. It's like a strange, elemental, sci-fi synth. It's almost trance-like, really, isn't it? It's,
there are several YouTube remixes that would agree with you.
Never thought of doing a trance remix yourself? Melancholy trance?
No, well, that might be another April Fool's.
Is Final Fantasy VII your favourite Final Fantasy?
It is the first one I played, so therefore, yes, it is my favourite. No, it is. I wish I could tell you whether it was because it's the best game or whether it was because it's the one I played first, but it is my favourite.
That's fine. I think for me, that's the sort of thing doesn't really matter at the end of the day because it's yours.
Yeah.
It's your own personal Final Fantasy, which is the best thing, really. There's so many games. There must be one you like. Yeah. What about Uematsu's work in general? Do you rate it? Well, obviously you've done a lot of Final Fantasy remixes, but this compared to other games, do you think it's a really good standard of work for him, or do you think he did better work overall elsewhere?
I think, trying to look at it objectively, I prefer the 8 one.
Okay.
Where I don't prefer the game. Not that it's a bad game, I like Final Fantasy 8 just fine. I just think that, maybe the game to soundtrack ratio. No, that doesn't make any sense, but not even liking the game as much. I think I can appreciate that I prefer the 8 soundtrack.
Okay.
9 is also very good as well. But I don't think I have the nostalgia for 9 that many people do.
Sure.
I came to it a bit late. I also, if I had a moment associated with it, definitely I'd be happy to put the Lost Odyssey. I can't remember. Is it just a prologue? Just the menu music, basically.
Okay.
The main menu.
Have you you say you haven't played the game properly? Is that right?
Well, I mean, I got halfway through, but it's. I haven't been able to commit to like an RPG as an adult. I don't think. There's half of it. There's half of me going, okay, you could be playing something, I'm making air quotes again, for work. So you're like, okay, Lost Odyssey. I'm gonna trust that this soundtrack might be really good. And there's the other half of me going, yeah, but you have to do work in the day. Why don't you play something where you can switch your mind off? And so I give into that half and play Rocket League all night, and then realise I've wasted my life.
Well, I'm interested to see what you thought of the soundtrack you heard, I guess, of Lost Odyssey, because a lot of people say it's like one of his most underrated works. What do you generally think of it?
I liked what I heard. I'm not making lists of his top 10 soundtracks or anything, but it's definitely you can, especially from that piece. I wish I knew the name of it. It's just the first one you hear with the continue new game menu at the start. You can just hear his footprint. If that makes sense. Like you can just hear his mark all over it, and it's just like, okay, this is going to be good. And I got into just listening to the soundtrack when I thought, oh, maybe Lost Odyssey would be a good shout. And it was good fun. Obviously, I didn't have like we've established, I didn't really have the same love for this game as I did for the Final Fantasies 20 years ago. But yeah, I quite enjoyed it.
So we'll go on from one prolific composer onto another prolific in the sense that it's the I'm going to call this section of the show the Jessica Curry section. But let's have a listen, see what piece Dan's chosen, and we'll try to find something new to talk about this game. That was All the Earth from Everybody's Gone to the Rapture from this podcast's favourite composer, Jessica Curry. Dan, tell me a little bit about why this specific piece in the game is your favourite.
So, as we go with a bit of background
Okay.
about why this game's made in. I am not one for these kind of games normally. I'm not the first one to try out a game that's been called a walking simulator.
Okay.
But when a game is on PlayStation Plus, you can bet that I will definitely try it. So obviously, like I'm sure many other people do, like regardless of what it is, you get all the games and then maybe play them like sometime in the future. And this is Christmas Eve. We're talking. I was visiting we go down to Weymouth to my partner's mum and dad's house. And I get to bring my PlayStation because I don't want to talk to these people. No, that's not true. They're very lovely people.
You want to enhance their lives by sharing your experience with them.
Well, this year we bought the PSVR down.
Okay.
And they were very confused, but we had a good time. So, but no, they tend to go to bed about 10:30, and that leaves about 2 hours, or I don't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I bring PlayStation down, set it up in the bedroom, and I forgot to get the Wi-Fi code from them, so I couldn't play Rocket League. So that's most of my games out the window. But I had Rapture installed on there. I'm like, okay, well, it's this or nothing. And like as soon as it started, you hear the ambience, and the setting is what I loved about that game. Like the rural England, like I think it was done very well. Like just the it just looked really good. So I was like, okay, we'll carry on going. And I was like, Wanderer, I got stuck for ages, and I was like, okay, I'm just about to give this game up. And then, like, I triggered somehow, I have no idea how, like not consciously triggered Jeremy's ending, the ending of the first chapter. And then like, so he's having this breakdown, and then like this choral music hits. And I was like, oh my god, what is going on? And then it's so sad. And then All the Earth plays while he's being absorbed into something. I don't know what happens, but like, so this is technically Christmas Day, I guess. Christmas Eve at like midnight. No, most people just like waiting for Christmas Day. like the most like upsetting segment of like any game, and it was just amazing. And I was like, okay, maybe I've missed something with these games.
Sure.
And just that, yeah. And then I played on, and then the end of the next chapter is just as haunting, but I can only pick one, so I'm picking All the Earth because it's the start of the soundtrack, and it's just the.
I guess that's
interval, brilliant.
That's a really good story behind it as well. That's like, well, it's just like, you know, I think when I started the show, it was all about the moment that was tied to the game that impacted you. I never thought actually maybe it would be related to real life situations, like because that sort of really hits home with Christmas really well. So. Especially the choral soundtrack, you get lots of choral hymns around Christmas. That's it's almost made to be played around Christmas, I suppose.
I
even though it's a summer game.
Yeah, well, it's just the kind of the lights flashing, and like I think most people turn their Christmas lights off, but a few lights were flashing in the background, and like jolly Santas like waving, whereas there's this vicar man like crying to this incredible soundtrack, and it was just it's very nice contrast.
So this sort of game, you said you're not generally a fan of it.
I would maybe I shouldn't have said that. I'm not familiar.
Okay. Since playing Rapture, have you gone on to other games in the genre and maybe found soundtracks there you liked, or games you liked?
No, because none have turned up on PlayStation Plus since.
That's a shame.
No, I am interested like in stuff like Edith Finch. Seems like it's been well received. And I know like obviously Jessica has a lot of other amazing soundtracks that I have listened to, but don't have the knowledge of the game to go with it. But I'm guessing you, like with Dear Esther and stuff, are you?
Are you into? I played Dear Esther like Do you know what? It's interesting. The first time I played Dear Esther, I could not stand it.
Really? Okay.
I could not get on with it whatsoever. And I don't know if I had an epiphany like a couple of years later, but maybe I played Journey in the meantime, something like that. I was enjoying like a relaxing, chilled experience game with a great soundtrack. I was just like,
Yes.
okay, this is really easy to play. I'm getting into the story. It's quite emotional. It's quite good, really good, in fact. And then I went back to see if there were more games like that, and I thought, oh, there's Dear Esther. Apparently that's meant to be like that, but I played that already. It wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And I went back to it. It was like I was playing a different game. Maybe I had a different viewpoint to it at that stage, but yeah, it was quite nice to play that again and maybe appreciate the soundtrack more and the environments and the story a bit more. That's my experience with other works by Jessica Curry. I haven't played Machine for Pigs though, so I'm quite interested.
I am a coward, as we'll come to later on, so I won't touch that. I've also just realised that Gone Home has been on PlayStation Plus, and I do have it, so maybe I'll go back to that.
Get on it.
Yeah. Do you recommend?
I'd recommend that. It's it's got a really good story beats to it.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a good story. It's good music in there as well. Have you heard the Firewatch soundtrack?
No, I've not. No.
It's the same guy who did the Firewatch score who did Gone Home.
Okay.
It fits the story and the setting really well in both. So both of those I'd really recommend. But we sort of sidetracked. We've gone to the narrative adventure recommendation show.
And like when we were just talking about it, then like I just remembered how close I was to just giving up and going to sleep, just walking around Yorton.
Yeah.
So it's called, yeah, and just being like, I couldn't find the next bit of light just to tilt my controller and have it vibrate a lot and have something happen.
What did you think of the village itself? Did it feel like what it was meant to be? I guess. I
really liked just the setting and just the kind of, as someone who I lived the first few years of my life in Didcot. I don't know if definitely your international listeners wouldn't have heard of it, but it's a small-ish market town.
Okay.
And my grandparents lived in Steventon, which might as well have been Yorton, and it just it's set in the mid-80s, early 80s, sometime in the 80s. So it's probably a bit before my time, but there were some striking similarities, like with like just the bridges and just the stuff, just the whole, like I said, ambience of it. And it's just really nice to see and to hear some. Well, if they weren't genuine English accents, they could have fooled me, because there's some good old West Country accents going on there. Yeah,
I think most of them were genuine. I'm not sure if they're genuine West Country though. They might have been genuine British.
No, maybe not. I'd like to give a shout out to the PS4's controller headphone feature, which is incredible, because I wouldn't have heard that, as it was midnight and I didn't want to have the sound up lest I wake up.
That is very true.
My parents-in-law.
Well, you could have woken them up with like a heavenly chorus of music on Christmas morning. That is quite the memory to make.
Okay, fair enough. I take it all back. It's a shit feature. I'm sorry. Didn't mean to swear.
So we'll jump on to your next game.
Let's do it.
Next game, your next piece of music, which you've alluded to, is from a horror game. Well, your favourite genre, as you've mentioned. We'll have a listen, and then we'll have a chat about why this is one of your picks. That was well, there isn't a proper title that I could see for this other than Save Room from Resident Evil, originally composed by a team called M Inc., which is composed of Makoto Tomozawa, Akari Kaida, and Masami Ueda. So tell me about the Save Room and your aversion to horror games.
So I'm going to bring back PlayStation Power here, the magazine that's not the official PlayStation magazine, but was my magazine of choice in the mid-90s. They had a subscription offer where you'd pay for your 12 months or 13 issues, and you'd get a free game. And I remember the 4 free games were Puzzle Fighter, which I should have taken. A Street Fighter game, and as we've already established, I had Soul Blade.
Of course.
So I didn't want to overdo on the fighting games. A Command and Conquer game on the PlayStation. I was only 10, but I knew stay away from that. And Resident Evil, which had received a very good review from PlayStation Power, so we went with that instead. And I remember getting it and being terrified. Like, I'm sure, like, most 10-year-old kids wouldn't be terrified of the original Resident Evil. But oh my god, the first zombie, when you see him turn around doing that face.
I think the animations helped on that though.
Yeah, well,
but that was terrifying. Even for me, that was something else.
And then he just like gets up and eats you. Obviously, I was scared stiff. I couldn't shoot anything, and the controls already don't help on Resi. But nevertheless, made my way through it, and then obviously terrified. But then you get to the room, you get to a save room, and then the music hits, and you're like, oh, okay. And I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think anything can attack you in a save room.
I don't believe so. No.
And it's just like
haven.
Yes, and it's just like you're just there, and you got your ink ribbons maybe, and you can get your F-aid spray and get your herbs and just chill out. But the music is just, I think it's the best. I know earlier I was talking about like Mako Reactor just fitting the scene so well. I just think this music is just so perfect for the kind of, you're safe, but you've got to go back out there sort of thing. And it's not great because soon, in a few minutes, you're going to walk up the stairs and there's going to be something there and it's going to shoot you, and then you're going to go through a corridor and dogs are going to jump out the window and you'll be too scared that you'll sell the game to your mate.
How is that? Is that how far you got in? The dogs and suddenly it's like, nope.
I traded it to someone who lived up the road for Doom, the PS1 version of Doom.
Right.
I got a bad deal on that one. I'll freely admit that. However, I remember his dad saying, You'll be okay with this because it's just as scary as the game that you couldn't play. I'm like, come on, you can't equate the two either. I mean, yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'd already played Doom on like PC, so I was like, no, I'm gonna shoot these pink pixels with mouths and have a great time where you can get scared with the dogs in the window. I chatted to him a few weeks after that, and he said it was a great game and he wasn't scared. So
that's what they all say.
I guess I'm a coward.
That's what they all say. Oh, it was a great game. I completed that. I wasn't scared one bit.
I just remember being in the save room, just hearing that music, just being like, okay, if there's more of these, I can probably deal with it.
Did it sort of make you a little bit scared to leave the save room when you came to it? It's like, I want to stay here.
Yeah. So that's why the music just kind of stuck with me, and then. In the remake, the remake, whatever you call it, for the GameCube and the PS4, it's I didn't really play it on the GameCube, but I definitely picked it up on PS4 when it got ported over. And oh my god, I love that game now so much. Now I know when I'm about to be scared. But then they've added bloody Crimson Heads, and they're even worse.
Yeah, because they just don't die.
They don't die, you have to burn them. But that gives you an extra excuse to hear the amazing save room over and over again. Because you have to fill up your fuel tank in there. So that's not too bad.
How do you find the remake version compared to the original? Do they have the same qualities, or have they done anything?
It's that thing like where the remake version sounds like you remember it anyway, sort of thing. I don't know if that makes sense. But
Like you hear it in HD.
Just the we'll call it the HD sound. The HD version of it sounds just like I remember it when I was terrified in 1997.
This is a interesting segue I'm going to make here.
Okay,
But I'm going to go to Crash Bandicoot 2.
Yeah.
This was one of your sort of like, if I had a sixth pick, if you can't have one of these, I'll have this. It's the Bear It theme from Crash Bandicoot 2, which is the when you're riding a polar bear through various locations. It is super happy. It's one of my favourite tracks. It's just it's brilliant. I don't know if you played I think you have played the Crash Bandicoot remaster.
Steve, I platinumed the Crash 1 remaster.
Have you played through the Crash 2 one yet?
I've not, no.
You've not, no. So maybe it won't work so well this question, but I don't know if you've heard the remastered version of this theme.
I heard you. Well, I read your tweet about it.
Yeah, you know how Bear It sounded like a happy Christmas, maybe Christmassy, but a happy, snowy, bouncy, fun song.
Yeah.
It now sounds like it's in space. It's so different. I think what I'll do, I'll try and find both pieces and play them in the background while we're talking here, so people
that is a great
know what I'm talking about. But it just doesn't fit at all. And I guess it was related to that question about maybe if
it doesn't sound like it did in your head.
It doesn't sound like it did in my head. Just going back to it, it doesn't even sound like I thought it did in my head.
Yeah.
It's just did you have any other pieces like that in remasters where you've listened to like the remastered version and gone, what the, apart from like the director's cut version of Resident Evil, where you've
the mansion basement theme of director's cut Resident Evil.
Yeah.
There's a special. If your listeners could want to check that out, you can play that behind us talking. That would be great.
I think we'll save people's ears about that, especially considering the credentials of the composer themselves who redid this all. Pretended he was composing it, but was actually deaf.
I heard about that.
Yeah.
Ironically.
He outsourced the creation of that.
Wow.
You can tell. It was not very good. So yeah, I just wondered if...
Let's have a think. Nothing springs to mind. No. I can't say I've played many remasters of games that I can really remember the music of. The Final Fantasy X one, nothing stood out. I've listened to the remastered versions on the internet, and people on YouTube aren't very happy.
No, I've heard these as well, and I don't understand. I mean, maybe there's some instrumentation differences, but it's not as if they've changed.
Xanarkand doesn't have a 6 shredding solo in it or anything, which I'd like to hear. I'm pretty sure I don't need to go very far to hear that. But yeah, and nothing stood out from that soundtrack as being egregious or anything.
Yeah.
What else? No, I can't think of anything. Certainly not Bear It in Space levels.
Did you generally prefer like your remake versions to be like you were listening to the original, or do you like the new spin? I
don't mind. Like, why not have a bit of fun with it? Hey, I put different spins on music.
It's very true.
As a living, so I don't think I have any right to complain. But the thing is, like in your like with Bear It, there's especially in that game, there's not at least I don't think there is. There's not a button you can hit to like on that on the Halo ones where you press a button and it suddenly looks like it did 10 years ago. You can't hit the music button and like the original comes on, which is a shame.
Unfortunately not. I think maybe I just had like expectations of hearing that version and going, oh yes, I'm so excited. So excited I heard it. I was like, oh
yeah.
It's not it's not a terrible piece of music. It's still good music, and if I hadn't have heard the original, I might have liked this one. So yeah, it's probably just my head playing around with things. But yeah, I thought it was quite interesting point to raise.
Maybe we'll do this podcast again after the 7 remake is out, and we might have a few more
Sure, yeah, that sounds good. We can do that in 2021. So,
Yeah, it doesn't seem to be happening very quickly, does it?
no,
Oh, well.
generally not. It will get made, I think. It's just going to take a lot longer than people imagine.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. More time they're taking it, the better. Make it a good
agree.
game. Don't make it a broken game. I was wondering, are there any other games that are like tense or energetic where it has these relaxing moments that maybe give you a similar sort of feeling? Something like something is even like what's the game? Mario 64. Don't know why I forgot that. Because you've got
the docks.
Yeah, the Die Docks. Yeah.
Yeah, I that's up there as the like. I reckon that's in my top 5 most requested. And with good reason. It's a lovely song, but I don't know. I don't tend to play many tense games. I remember loving Silent Hill, like as a slightly older kid, like 12, 13. Played through that. I only remember being terrified when that body just falls out of the locker.
Yeah.
That's the only bit I remember going, oh! Having a dog through the window moment, we'll say. But I don't remember any, like, I just remember the atmosphere being amazing rather than any standout, like, pieces. No, have you got any examples?
My main one was Die Docks, but also Evil Within. It's got the the famous save cat. Obviously, Evil Within is done by I cannot remember his name to save my life. The same game director as Resident Evil.
Yes.
And he took the save room idea and turned it into Save Cat. A cat, literally, room you go in and you save with a cat. You stroke a cat and you save the game.
That's good.
But in there, it's got it's Claire de Lune.
Oh yeah, Debussy.
Yes, Debussy. That plays while you're stroking the cat, and it's very soothing. It's very away from the rest of the game. So
okay, that sounds good.
Anything like that. So yeah, that's Resident Evil. Are there any? You say you sort of slightly got back into Resident Evil.
Oh, well, I remember playing the second one, and that is one of my favourite games on the PS2.
Okay.
And that save room theme can also be in my top 5, but you know, only one game per franchise.
Only one save room theme per list.
I didn't really care for 3 and haven't played any, not even 4, which I know is critically acclaimed. But I just never got into it, and then the remake happened. Yeah. I didn't get it for GameCube, but like I said, I got it for PS4 and I really liked it. But I'm not a horror guy. Like the idea of Dead Space still scares me and stuff like that.
It's a scary game.
Yeah. Is that your kind of thing then?
I do like that sort of thing. Dead Space is it was one of the first horror games I played since Silent Hill 2 that I actually really enjoyed.
Right, yeah.
Because it had that sort of like overbearing, tense atmosphere that I was like, yes, more of this, please.
I bet it looks terrible now, but I remember like a friend getting Silent Hill 2 and the guy just looking in the mirror, and I was like, oh my god, games cannot look any better than this. Like back in, must have been 2001 or 2002, around there, and yeah, this game, just thinking, right, well, this game looks too good, it's going to terrify me.
Going on from one area of horror to another slightly related horror game for your final pick. This is a much more recent game than Resident Evil. So we'll take a listen to some very emotional music, if you've seen the end of this game. And we'll have a little chat about why this is your final VGM moment. That was The Path, A New Beginning from The Last of Us by Gustavo Santaolalla. Dan, could you tell me why this is your very last VGM moment?
This is because it's an amazing song from an amazing game, and this is the, I guess it is the credits theme. It plays the instant after the. Can we spoilers again? Are we alright with spoilers?
We are.
Obviously,
spoilers.
the finish, the ending of Last of Us is not really a happy ending.
No.
And she says okay, and then that chord hits, and credits roll, and it's just like, I'm pretty sure like after every game I finish now, it's hammer every button to see if you can skip the credits sort of thing. but not with this. Just like, oh my god, such a great song, and I just wanted to pick something from The Last of Us. And when I was thinking, I just like there's no real moment. Like obviously there's the intro, which is pretty devastating, but I couldn't remember what the music was to that. I just remember it being very emotional and just the whole scene rather than the music. Not like with Rapture, which was discussing like the music just stuck with me, whereas the music for that didn't really. And there are a lot of like the All Gone themes, very nice, but there's so many iterations of it, I didn't really want to pick one. But whereas The Path, The New Beginning, just at the end, I think maybe it's because all you're doing is looking at a load of names scrolling up. It gives you chance to digest like how good the music is. And I think the main reason is just because it's the final thing you hear in what was my favourite game of last generation. So I went with that one.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Like a game that has like two really standout pieces of music in it. So yeah, this last piece and the main Last of Us theme.
That is a good song, yes.
It's overall a very understated soundtrack. Like I think the especially for such a big composer as Santaolalla. I still don't know if I ever pronounced his name right or wrong. I'm just saying Santaolalla because it sounds nice. But for such a big composer to have to make a soundtrack that's more about the quiet contrasts to the horror around you, I guess, human and otherwise. It's quite interesting, I think.
Yeah, I would like I mentioned earlier, I like wanted to just work on one of my favourite like games. I work on a soundtrack on one of my favourite games, and I listened to the soundtrack on Spotify because like we've said, there was only a couple of standout themes. And you just listen to it and you go, I can't remember hearing this bit in the game, but it's great. And like when I was making a video to put on YouTube to like accompany my covers, like there's so much, I could just put all the dialogue on it because there was no music underneath it or anything. It took me a while to find out where these pieces played. So obviously I knew when the Path played, and that probably just like you said, just makes it stand out more.
Are you a fan of Santaolalla's other works, those like for like Brokeback Mountain or Making a Murderer, that sort of thing?
I am not a film person, and I had no idea he did the soundtrack to Making a Murderer. I have no affiliation with him, love for his work. I haven't listened to any of his things and gone, oh, I hate that.
I did like the in Last of Us, the classical guitar use.
Yeah, it was great, wasn't it? It's really nice to hear that the instrumentation used in that score.
Because it's not something you hear a huge amount of. You hear rocking guitars or you hear classical orchestras, but very, very rarely the actual classical guitar itself. So
it might be worth like a few people that enjoyed Last of Us but didn't really like, as we've discussed, like have a great understanding of the soundtrack because it wasn't really that prominent to give it a listen, because it's I don't think it will evoke many memories of the game, but it's just I just think it's a nice thing to listen to. It's one of the few. I wouldn't say I'm a big just put on a soundtrack and just like, if I haven't played the game I probably wouldn't seek out a soundtrack to listen to it sort of thing. But like Last of Us, like I think personally, I think that's a good soundtrack to listen to, whether you have recent memories of the game or not.
Yeah, I think it's one you can listen to and sort of relax.
Yeah,
a bit, which is again quite strange for a game about the apocalypse in its own way. So
I'm a big fan of themes and reusing themes, and I think The Last of Us has about 8. So I'm just gonna search for it on Spotify now.
Yeah, it's got like loads of different variations of the same theme, but they all, when you're listening to them on the soundtrack, they all have their own place, which is quite interesting.
Yes, yeah, definitely, yeah.
So the game's ending itself.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back and talk about the game for a bit.
Sure.
Do you think that was satisfying for the experience you were on? Just that okay ending, and there's like credits. What do you think of that?
I thought it was a bold move. It was I think I enjoyed the whole final act so much that they could have... Actually, no. I think, now I'm thinking about it, I'm glad they did it, because a happy ending would not have suited. Imagine, like, you've gone through all that and then somehow, oh, they found a cure or something like that. I'm like,
sure.
Okay, cool. Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, it wouldn't have had the quite same impact, would it?
Yeah. So, yeah, no, I'm cool with it. Also, Volume 2, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Is that what it's called? No, it's just called Part 2, not Volume 2. I was looking at the soundtrack.
That was, yeah, Volume 2 was the soundtrack for Left Behind, I think.
Yes, which I haven't played, which is a shame, because...
That's definitely worth going through.
Yeah. I played it on PS3, and I think, like, it was towards the end of the life cycle. I think I moved on to PS4,
sure.
And I struggled to justify buying it again, although I know the remaster version has it built in. It has it not built in, but like comes with it. Does it?
Yeah, I think it's also standalone. I think on the store. So
is it now? Okay, yeah, cool. I might
definitely worth having a look at that, because more Santa Lala work. And
this is a great game recommendation podcast, Steve. You've got here.
It's very good. It's maybe I'll change the format. It's yeah, it's a great ending. I think all your choices, apart from the first one, obviously, have this soothing quality to them. Obviously, you're a big into your melancholy remixes. You like your low beats per minute.
Yeah.
Is that your preferred genre of music to listen to?
It really isn't. It's odd. I am a large heavy metal fan, and the faster normally the better. However, like, I'm not one of those. I think the metal community has a maybe deserved reputation for being very insular. But I do realise that, hey, there is better music to chill out to, and yeah, like I like Niels Fram and a bit of Iron Audi and stuff like that is more like, I guess, what I picked, apart from the Edge of Soul, which is
that's quite interesting.
More similar to what I might listen to.
I guess there's not a lot of heavy metal video game music about, really, is there? There's
the thing is, yeah, when heavy metal tends to be the subject of a game, they tend to use licensed stuff because it's probably going to be a lot better than I mean, like, you've got like the Guilty Gear stuff and that, but that's not really my game. No.
Well, you've got Soul Blade.
Exactly.
You don't need another fighting game.
Soul Blade has the best soundtrack ever written. There, I said it. That's not true.
No, I'm afraid we've taken that as fact.
Okay,
that's the end of the podcast. No. I think, yeah, the only one I could really think of that has that sort of not heavy metal, I guess, but like heavier feel is like someone like Dynasty Warriors, where it's not even heavy metal. It's just more with gusto. It's more rocking, I guess.
Gusto metal.
Even rocking, there's not a lot of rocking soundtracks.
No, well, like, yeah, you just need to look at like Brutal Legend, and they just went with, like I said, like a licensed soundtrack, didn't they? And I was trying to think, what else is there? No, the problem is people tend to if you say like something, oh, it's like a heavy metal game, it'll probably end up like that Drawn to Life game. Have you played that?
Yeah, I haven't played it.
But you know what I mean,
right?
In
action, yeah.
Well, no, nothing else needs to be said, but you know what I mean.
I do indeed. I think that is a excellent place to finish the podcast.
No, please, not Drawn to Life. No, Drawn to Death. It's Drawn to Death, isn't it? I'm so sorry to the creators.
Drawn to Life is the 3DS or Wii drawing game, isn't it?
I'm so sorry to the creators and fans of Drawn to Life. Oh my god.
Well, on that wonderful correction,
yeah,
we'll jump onto the end of the podcast. Thank you so much, Dan, for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Really enjoyable, some really great chat we've had, and I've learned quite a lot about Soul Edge. I'm tempted to go and try and find a copy and give it a go.
Oh, it's I don't know if it's. I don't know. I've still got my hard copy that I picked up £5 at a charity shop, so I've not had to look at it on PSN, but I don't know.
Is there anything you'd like to tell the audience about? Anything upcoming or anything you'd like to plug?
If you like formulaic piano-based simplified covers of Final Fantasy music, please check out TPR on Spotify and YouTube. And if you like talented people playing alongside these people, please check out my latest album, which has a very talented cellist playing alongside me. It's Memories of Fantasies for piano and cello. It's out now on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, and Bandcamp.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
That was an excellent plug.
Thank you.
That is way better than I ever do. I'm more of a rambly sort of, oh yeah, I've got this. So far, brilliant, done.
I was practicing it all night last night.
That was very professional.
Thank you.
No, so yeah, thank you very much everybody for listening. Obviously, as I mentioned, we have our own Twitter, VGM_moments. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. You can like us, subscribe us there. We will very soon be on iTunes. We may be on iTunes by the time this episode comes out. We might not, but if we are, if you like us, rate it. Hooray! Hopefully you'll join me next time for some more VGM moments. And until then, have an excellent day. Thank you very much.